啊？
还没有开始，
还没有开始。
对。
Waiting for what？ 应该开始了吧？我现在已经 live 了。
好，现在开始了。
OK， 好。
OK。
你还用我跟你在摄影身边吗？
啊？
用我跟着你吗？
你不赶时间就跟一跟吧。
We always need to remember that we are now with freedom, where we got fear, where with fear that we cannot exert it. So we need to stand still to let more people back in Hong Kong that they believe in us, that should still be with faith to achieve more democracy, because back in Hong Kong, we see many people there being isolated in a personal cell. We see the trial have been processed. We see the facade of judiciary pretend to be independent, to judge the people just because they serve the society, they speak for the people. That's why we need to stand still, because we can't let injustice to be there without challenge. That's why we need to stand still here, even in the center of the UK, in London. We need to let the establishment know we cannot cooperate with the other status quo with establishments. We need to have a change. We need to let the voice of the people to be equally heard. That's why we need to stand here. We are only the people, we are only those powerless people, but we only have a voice. Once we're still being alive, we need to speak out. That is our duty. That must us to be here. I know many people using BNO visa to come here to achieve what they want. But one thing they cannot deny is that they come here because those people make sacrifice for us. Staying in Hong Kong, staying in bigger prison in Hong Kong, cannot speak out freely. And even those people, they know they make sacrifice, they defend themselves on court. And the prosecutors from Department of so-called Justice and those judges on the court always bother them, always stop them to speak just for the people, because they said that's not relevant to the law. But what part is about the law? What is the law that we cherish? Is that the law protects people? Is that the law respects people? Is that the law to safeguard the civil rights of people to have the equal right to vote? That is a simple and humble request for the people.
而家演講緊嘅就係港僑協會嘅
The people's mandate is not upon on the Hong Kong authorities and government, because they never ever get votes from the residents back in Hong Kong. They only listen to the order of those people owns power from Beijing. Where they are, who they are, we don't know. We don't know who we elected back in Beijing. We have been requested to be as a Chinese, but we never ever get the decent rights as Chinese. Can we join the army? Can we join the foreign ministry? Can we even have a say in any kind of decision making back in our so-called motherland, China? No. But we've come to the UK. We're British national overseas citizens. We'll be entitled to vote. In the future, we can be elected. Those politicians stay in the Whitehall, stay in the council, stay in the parliament. They have the power, but we are the people. We will hold them to account. That is democracy. They are not the master above us. That is democracy. We can be with freedoms to stand here with others, with other purpose, with other causes, but we have been here coordinated. We've been here with some dream to achieve better society. And one of those, the key part, is from Hong Kong, so we stand here. We're being a part of the UK society, the community. We make change gradually. One day, a few months ago, back in the Lunar New Year reception in Downing Street, in 10 Downing Street, the first time ever to invite the new migrants from Hong Kong. No Chinese community leaders have been targeted by the CCP United Front activities, have been invited into this centre politics of the UK, because they gradually know the potential threat and danger to the liberal democracy. They start to realize they need to welcome refugees, welcome migrants who share and who help to safeguard our usual way of living, our usual value of liberal democracy. Respect different thoughts. Welcome them to be here, because now we are the key parts of liberal democracy. We join the international relation, we join the international coalition with other kings of liberal democracy, because we know what happens in Hong Kong. A few years ago, people went on the street just for the humble request. It's not one-off incident. This is the domino effect to showcase the future of the Chinese Communist Party regime. Previously, decades ago, they tried to sell their economic plan. They believe Belt and Road Initiative will work together, achieve mutual prosperity. They sell China model to let the people to know how fast that they develop, how grand infrastructures that they made. But that is the outcome. Many people may get benefit, but many side effects, many costs for environment, for equality, have been made sacrifice. But in Beijing, many of those people being labeled as low-end classes have been removed outside of the capital of China. How can the people speak out their voices when China imposed very strict COVID lockdown policy? Make those people in Uyghurs region, make those peoples have been burned, have been made sacrifice because they cannot leave their building, they cannot leave their home. It triggered those people, those citizens in Shanghai, in Tianjin, in many major cities. They feel speechless because they cannot speak. Then the government stepped down, the government stepped back a little bit. They changed, they make a U-turn. They let the society being open. They let the economy to be incorporated, but they feel less confident. So they pretend as business ran as usual. They start to welcome others to come back to Hong Kong. Hong Kong authorities even issue out 500,000 free air tickets to the people, to foreign professionals, to tourists, even to Hong Kong people to come back to Hong Kong. They pretend nothing happened. But those blood have shed. But those sacrifices have been made. We cannot let this to be normalized. If that's been normalized, the CCP will win. Because one country, two system. What a system is safeguarded. What those people now in prison cannot be normalized, cannot be let go. We cannot move on. Because those people let us be here. So that's why we cannot let it to be numb, paralyzed. We let those people, their human life being, they're human beings, they're now in prison. They cannot die in vain, they cannot be in prison in vain. So that's why we need to stand together. I do hope all of us now coming to the UK, we need to remember why we have been here. We let our desperate voice back in the personal cell, they felt isolation. We need not to let them to feel being isolated. That's a human being, that's not about politics. Don't be in question, don't be asked whether you're loyal to China or to the UK, to Britain. Because then we're only loyal to the dignity, basic dignity of human being. No one, even we disagree, could be in prison just because of their thought, just because of their speech, just because what flag they wave, just because what book they wrote. No! That's why we need to stand still here. If the Chinese Communist Party chose that pathway and go further and cooperate with other autocratic regimes, wage the war, expanding to the further, suppress peoples overseas, then it's not just the matters of Hong Kong. They're not just about the matter of those people living in autocratic regime. That is about all the people living in liberal democracy. Because the national security law has been imposed, they said the law is effective globally, even in the UK. If you're fear, if you're afraid, the law is effectively here. So we cannot be afraid. We need to speak out. We need to raise the social awareness. We let the people to know how to protect our safety of all those people in the United Kingdom. That is the basic loyal, not to the anyone of the country, but to the basic dignity of human being. That is humanity. So we stand here. I always mention, I always emphasize, we're seemingly without power. But gradually, after 10 years, 20 years, our generation, next generations, integrate in here, talk about our stories, voice out our memory. We are gradually get into the establishment. We have been protected by all the resources here. We joy the long journey saga that one day we could bring democracy, freedom back to our hometown. And the hometown, if you choose your own way to stay in the UK, becoming British citizens, or go back to Hong Kong. But the one thing we need to promise, we hope one day we can go to Hong Kong without fear. We need to go back to Hong Kong to see our family members, our friends, and those people they are glad to see us, to resettle in the UK with freedom, even they're now in darkness in prison. That is basic sympathy. That is basic value of human being. We can't let the humanity be eradicated. Let President Xi Jinping know, even you scrap the terms to be the China president, even forever. Even if you can change the so-called politicians of China to govern without any people's mandate over the people there, one day you will see the limits, because the majority of the people stands together. We're all equal. That we believe in one faith. One day, if we keep this faith, if we keep this belief, one day the world will change for us. That's what we can promise. Even now, we seem stand against the cruel reality. It seems we stand against the arbitrary autocratic power. But that is about the faith. If we look back to human history, the philosophers, those people thinkers, they drive the people, they inspire the people, they motivate the people to have rounds after rounds of revolution. That's what the Chinese Communist Party come from. And that is what, if the Chinese Communist Party cannot live up to the promise, expectation of the people, will be buried by the choice of the people. And that is democracy that we need to believe. One day, please believe in yourself. Hong Kongers will be vibrant in the UK. Hong Kongers will be in the council. Hong Kongers would be in the parliament, even Hong Kongers would be in the cabinet. We're British, but we share the same value. We safeguard the value of the UK. We let the UK have this sort of influence with this kind of memory back in Asia. That is our hometown. That is about people. That is about human. And that's about humanity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. Now we have our second speaker to address us. And he is Sam Goodman. He is a Director of Policy and Advocacy of Hong Kong Watch. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks, everybody, for coming out today. I mean, who says that British people don't like to protest? I mean, look at this. What a great day for it. You know, the reason we're here is because Hong Kong has the largest growing population of political prisoners in the world right now. As a percentage of the population, there are more female prisoners in Hong Kong than any other criminal justice system in the world. In the last 3 years, as we all know, they've arrested journalists, lawyers, academics, lawmakers. These aren't just names, people like Jimmy Lai, or Benny Tai, or Gwyneth Ho. These are also human beings. These are people's parents, people's grandparents, husbands, wives, colleagues, friends. They've been arrested for the most human of things, to express an opinion, to publish an opinion, to have a right to organize like we're doing here today, to vote for a government that you choose. And that is their supposed crime. And I know that in the last couple of weeks, we've been looking at the trial of the 47 Democrats, who, by the way, are only on trial for doing something that's entirely legal under Hong Kong's law, which is to run for election and try and form an opposition in the parliament. I know that all of us have searched our conscience and asked the question, what should we be doing for those of us who can't speak out in Hong Kong? How to offer our voice to the voiceless, particularly when they are being coerced by the authorities into being silent. And as Simon has summed up eloquently, the national security law is not just a security law. It is a tool of fear. It is the fear that encourages a neighbor to call up the national security police on another neighbor. It is a fear that turns the old against the young because of political disagreements. It is the fear that tells Hong Kongers to retire from public life and to leave their posts in civil society and in universities and the civil service. And it is a fear that censors the best in us and the best of us. And we have to find a way collectively to use our voices for those that can't speak out and to overcome that fear. And it isn't easy. The world is at a crossroads. Hong Kong has opened up to the rest of the world post-COVID. And we know the message that the Hong Kong government is selling. Hello, Hong Kong. They want the world to believe that everything is normal. They want us to forget about those we've left behind in Hong Kong, those people who are languishing in jails today. And we won't forget about them. By the way, when Christopher Hui, the finance minister, comes to the City of London in a couple of months' time, I hope we can all roll out the welcome mat for him and we can join him in the City of London as we are doing today and make it very clear what we think of this message of Hello Hong Kong, because it is, quite frankly, ludicrous. And so, when we ask ourselves what we should be doing, the first thing is we can't forget. And in our own way, we have to find a way to remind those people in the Foreign Office, in Parliament, in the media, and business here, of what's going on in Hong Kong and educate them. The second thing is we have to be united. Hong Kong community is one of the fastest growing communities in this country. It's about 150,000 people. I understand there are divisions, there are squabbles, there are new groups, new rivalries. Some people will bring old rivalries from Hong Kong, but we need to put that aside, quite frankly, and recognize strength in numbers, that the large voice that you have if you unite and you ask for clear-cut things, the UK government will not deny you that, because after all, they have a legal, historic, and moral responsibility to the people of Hong Kong that they can't just wish away. And the final point, of course, is about hope. We have to remember that things are dark right now. They won't always be there. The Berlin Wall fell down. No one expected that. The government, the apartheid government in South Africa collapsed and Nelson Mandela was released. No one could see that coming either. The collapse of the USSR, no one saw that one coming either. And one day, God willing, we will see the collapse of the Chinese Communist Party as well. So you need to hold on to that hope and get through. The final point is that the British parliamentarian Edmund Burke said, all it takes for evil to prosper is for good men and women to do nothing. And we have to make sure that the good men and women in Parliament and in the Foreign Office and in the business community do something for Hong Kong. And that really is the message that I think we can take here from today. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. And now we have our first third speaker to address us. His name is Isaac Chen Carlon. He is a former vice chairman of Demosisto. Thank you, Isaac.
Yes. Thank you everyone for coming to this rally. For those who are gathered here today, including myself, we all know the Hong Kong 47 case is not just any legal case, but the defendants are also our friends and partners. We have been fighting for democracy in Hong Kong together and continue to do so today. Each defendant is not just a number in the news reports, but individuals we once stood hand in hand. However, it is not a given that I can speak out here today. Under the threat of national security law, Joshua Wong and I were condemned by the State Council of China in 2020, accused of attempting to use students as ammunition and tools to obstruct the implementation of the national security law in Hong Kong, and even accused of applying political influence into schools. I was incredibly lucky to have successfully escaped Hong Kong and the dictatorship regime. But many of our friends are trapped in Hong Kong's prison, awaiting trial, and they are facing up to 10 years of imprisonment. Behind this case lies to a larger issue concerning democracy and freedom of Hong Kong. The defendants represent the voice of majority of Hong Kong people, and everything they have done is to defend Hong Kong's democracy and freedom. We cannot allow them to be treated unfairly, nor can we tolerate the threat to Hong Kong's democracy and freedom. The ruling of Hong Kong 47 case will be a historic moment for Hong Kong. Freedom and democracy have always been our value and defined the identity of Hong Kongers. The primary election was a democratic election in which over 600,000 Hong Kong people participated and represented the voice of Hong Kongers. If the candidates of the primary election are found guilty, the impact will go beyond the 47 defendants, but also everyone who participated in the primary election. Therefore, we must condemn in the strongest possible terms to the Chinese government, not only because it marks the injustice imprisonment of democratically elected leaders, but also because it tests the international community's commitment to democracy and freedom. Under the suppression of the Chinese Communist Party, this is a critical moment for Hong Kong, and the international community need to stand as one and show support to those who stand on the front line for freedom and democracy. Except for the 47 defenders, even political figures in the UK have been threatened, with Hong Kong Watch being warned that they may be in violation of national security law, and many of the political figures have also been threatened with imprisonment. Their freedom of speech and political participation rights face unprecedented challenges. I believe that the international community and the UK government can do so much more for Hong Kong. Let us jointly condemn the government's oppressions and prosecutions of the pro-democracy movement. Please join us in defending the rights to free speech and fighting for the people of Hong Kong who stand firmly on the side of democracy and freedom. Political prisoners must be freed. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Now we have our last speaker, Winston, to address us.
I will make a Cantonese speech after English. I was an assistant of on Claudia Mo Mang Ching and the chairman of Power for Democracy, Andrew Chiu Kai-yin. They're my ex-boss, and actually we work in the political industry in Hong Kong. We know each other, no matter an assistant, volunteer, or some activist, or some lawmaker in Hong Kong. We are friends. We have strong relationship. No matter how our difference of our ideology is different, we will have a meeting together. We have go hiking, we'll go having a lunch, something else. So now they are all in jail. For us, maybe for you, maybe just a sad news for Hong Kong, but for us, your friend in jail, your previous boss in jail, which is crisis for yourself, because you don't know which day the Hong Kong government or the Chinese government will arrest you. Has a common sense in political. We never care what you speak. We care what we do. What the action is the most important than speak, than a chat, than a slogan. So, opposite side is the 10 of Downing Street. We hope the UK government can do something, not speak something. Yes, as what the previous speech of Simon, there is some little bit change for the attitude of UK government, but that is not enough. That is not enough to make us have a freedom, and we can't go back home without fear. I hope today around 100 people here, which is maybe the promotion is not very enough. I hope the next time for something protest about the political prisoner in Hong Kong will be 1,000 people, will be 10,000 people. We know there is 150,000 BNO visa approved by UK government. I hope at least we have get half of us can come here to have a protest. 我而家用廣東話講一次，我係毛孟靜同埋趙家賢嘅前助理啦嚇，咁即係佢而家俾人拉咗都冇可能做而家嘅助理啦，係咪？咁我哋曾經咧係即係我做咗毛孟靜嘅助理3年，做咗趙家賢嘅助理2年半。我同佢哋嘅關係未必話係好好，但係同其他立法會議員嘅關係咧，可能話係即係朋友啦嚇。咁47人入邊，可能有1/3咧都可能係有私交嘅。咁我哋呢個行業以前其實個圈子都好細，不論係助理都好，不論係議員又好或者義工都好啦，都可能同大家想像中啲出入，其實可能係啲 friend 啊，可能係朋友嘅圈子比較多。對於大家嚟講，47人案或者係其他嘅政治人物或者其他政治犯入咗坐監，對大家可能嚟講只係一個新聞，一個好慘嘅新聞。但對我哋嚟講就係可能係好多嘅朋友入咗監，坐緊監，而你自己唔知幾時會自己被捕，或者有其他嘅危險啦嚇。咁做政治行業其實好簡單嘅啫，香港嘅政黨或者係社運團體一樣嘅咋，講係廢話嚟嘅，做先係實際。如果我哋喺上網嗰度講過，即係話我哋關注香港人，同今日企出嚟，雖然第100人集會啦嚇，咁個分別已經好大。謝文傑頭先講話唐寧街嘅態度係有啲唔同咗，但遠遠都未夠令到我哋可以平安咁樣返香港。作為政治行業嘅從業員啦，以前啦行動係最實際。我哋希望嘅係政府有行動，而唔係講啲口號俾我哋氹我哋返嚟。我哋響不論係香港嘅網媒又好，或者係英國報紙度，當講到香港嘅議題嘅時候咧，全部都係討論階段。討論夠唔夠咧？而家仲有啲咩需要討論咧？而家係咪即係47人案佢哋係即係抵死嘅咧？即係冇需要討論嘅喎。我哋需要嘅係英國政府有更加有決心咁樣去回應香港而家面對緊嘅問題。香港人有15萬嘅 BNO Visa 批咗啦，我哋今日有100個人，下次會唔會有1000呢？15萬入邊會唔會有一半，即係7萬5嘅人響呢條街出現為香港人示威咧？ 我希望下一次會係1000，之後係1萬，最尾係75000或者以上。咁啊，今日嘅發言係咁多，多謝。
Thank you, Vincent. 光復香港！光復香港！光復香港！ Okay, so thank you for our speaker, and I'm going to do conclusion for today. The trial of the Hong Kong 47 is the one of the most prominent national
呢個太子站嘅事件嘅生還者黃茂俊。
Cases under the NSL are heard by specific judge, handpicked by the chief executive, and do not have a jury. The 47 are facing a maximum of life sentence. The fairness of the trial needs international awareness. Most of the Hong Kong 47 were held in custody without bail for over 700 days before their trial began. They have lost their freedom for almost 2 years before the trial started. Only a few were granted bail, but with harsher conditions such as limited freedom of speech. It is undoubtedly a violation of fundamental human rights. These 47 people and the rest of the political prisoners urgently need our support. Our fellow Hong Kongers are suppressed and cannot speak up in Hong Kong. Therefore, living in a land of freedom, we should stand up and speak for them. We need to stand up for their rights and show the world the fairness of Hong Kong government and the CCP. These assemblies is just a started. We, the Hong Kong Political Prisoner Concern Group, will continue to raise this concern in the UK society. We will have following 4 activities in the next few months to continue to guide the attention of public opinion to help them in the UK society. And please join us and take action to stand with Hong Kongers who are suffering. Our team will spread information on Telegram channel called Stand with Hong Kong 47 and later. First, we can write a letter to our MPs. We urge Hong Kongers to write their MPs to express their concern about the deteriorating freedoms in Hong Kong and press the UK government for sanctions that make the perpetrators accountable for their abuse. Second, we urge Hong Kongers to use their vote to elect a councillor who aligns with their values and values their concern. Every May, councillors up and down the UK select some or of. Besides, there are minimal channels for the imprisonment to receive external information. Through letter writings, we hope to provide more updates, news, or even entertainment for them. We sincerely hope more of you can briefly write to the 44/7 case-related politicans. But we also want to promote letter writings in general. Until February 2022, there are over 2,800 Hong Kongers prosecuted, detained, or convicted of charge relating to the 2019 and 2020 protests. This number does not include charges and convictions on the national security law. They also need your caring and support. We still remember them. Last, we are looking for 44/7 volunteers to wear the 44/7 Hong Kong 44/7 mask while holding a gel or being chained on hand or foot to represent the injustice of being detained without trial. Volunteers will also display posters regarding the case. We hope this will raise the awareness of this case among the public. The local groups can decide on the number of participants, time, and content. And so, please follow the Telegram channel Stand for Hong Kong 47 for further action. I will see you soon. Thank you so much for coming by today. Thank you. we got a speaker, and he want to speak for the Hong Kongers, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks very much, and I'll be quick. My name is Pete Radcliffe, and I speak on behalf of the Labour Movement's Solidarity with Hong Kong. We've been supporting the Hong Kong struggle for freedom for the last 4 years, from the days when people took to the streets of Hong Kong and shook the system, that shook the police, that challenged the CCP and acted so bravely in struggling for liberties in Hong Kong. I just want to say that I think your struggle is not over. I think the CCP like to believe and would like us all to believe that they have won, but they haven't won. We still have trade unionists in Hong Kong prepared to go out on strike, despite the fact that trade unions have been smashed by the CCP's use of the national security law. We still have people. We had only today someone, a trade unionist of the Dockers Union, who struck so bravely in 2013, who said that their struggle is not over. The light is still there, it's dim, but it can raise again, and it will be raised. You mentioned, and it's right, we should demand that the British government does more to support those fighting for democracy in Hong Kong, but we should have no illusions. The very organisations that supported the repression in Hong Kong are based in London. The national security law was backed by banks like the HSBC, like Standard Chartered, corporations that base themselves in London, like the Swire Corporation that operate Cathay Pacific, victimise their workers when they oppose the national security law. All these organisations are immensely powerful and influential over the Tory party over which they give funds. They buy, the CCP buys the support of Tories in Parliament. So we should have no illusions by simply asking for them to act, that they will. We must, like our comrades, our brothers and sisters in 2019, be prepared to do as been called for today, take to the streets of London and demand that the people, and particularly those who suffer the same, under the same conditions, the same problems of fighting for decent jobs, for liberty, for democratic rights, we should demand that they come out in support of their Hong Kong brothers and sisters. I know and have worked with Lee Chuk Yan and other Hong Kong trade unionists like Winnie Yu and others who now are amongst the 47 facing long prison sentences. They have many friends in Britain. We have to make sure that their friends in the trade union are brought out. And the other thing we should recognise is 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the government was making many fine statements or gestures that it would support Hong Kongers fleeing to Britain. However, this government, the Tory government in Britain, opposes migrants. It brings in the most horrific actions against migrant seekers and asylum seekers. And we should say that all Hong Kongers should be allowed to come to Britain without restrictions, without visas, without all jumping through all the hoops that are there. All Hong Kongers should be allowed to come to Britain as they were able to 30 years ago. That right should be restored, and we should defend those others looking for asylum in Britain and demand that they're right. Britain should be a home, as all countries claiming to be democratic should be homes for those fleeing persecution. Our struggle is one, it's an international struggle, and we will win. And we'll win it, and I hope we will win it alongside our Chinese brothers and sisters. But our struggle must go on nevertheless. Hong Kong has the right for self-determination, and we should demand that that support is given, and we go, and as I said earlier, we need a demonstration 10, 100 times stronger today, and we will win backing, and we will defeat the CCP, and we will be victorious. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so do anybody's interested to have a speech in here? We are so welcome of it. And yeah, if there's no any people want to speak, then I guess the protest on today will finish. And thank you for, everyone for coming by, and thank you so much. And I guess we'll see you guys very soon.
嗰個香港，嗰個香港，嗰個香港。
好啦，今日嘅集會就結束，咁我睇一睇有冇人可以採訪一下先。
還好嗎你？還可以。哦，差唔多啦，我哋行。好啊，好啊。
咁而家我哋就
香港獨立，唯一出路。香港獨立，唯一出路。
我哋而家就揾到鄭文傑啦，咁同佢講兩句先。OK， 好。鄭文傑今日係啦，我哋係大紀元嘅，係啦。咁就今日你喺集會度都有發言啦。我見到你情緒都即係幾激昂喎，你嘅心情係點樣啊？對於個香港而家仲有大量政治犯係被囚啦，同埋係冇一個公平嘅審訊。
其實我諗每一次提到呢一個議題，即係尤其係我哋講緊我哋自己嘅即係我哋嘅人民而家喺香港呢個監獄入邊，其實都係最 touch 到我自己內心嘅一 part 嚟嘅。即係我覺得我哋做好多議題，講政策啊，講落地啊，其實都不及我哋講人權，講翻我哋認識嘅人，我哋電視機上嘅人，佢哋為咗我哋發聲，而家係面對咁大嘅唔公義喺監獄入邊。咁所以其實一定係令我哋係最感動，亦都係最感傷嘅個 part。所以我覺得今日我哋做呢一個遊行係想話俾仲喺香港嘅港人知道，我哋並沒有忘記，我哋唔係淨係講民生嘅議題，我哋一定亦都會去講唔公義嘅事情喺我哋家鄉發生，我哋一定會抗爭到底。
頭先你有講到咧，就英國政府咧個態度有啲轉變，其實你見到佢有啲咩轉變？
其實當然即係其實19年之後啦，佢哋無論係喺外交政策上嚟講，漸趨對於即係中共嘅嗰一套即係以前用經濟作為統戰嘅方式越嚟越兒女咯。咁當然即係佢對香港嚟講嘅嗰個態度亦都開始唔一樣。而呢一樣嘢唔單止淨係喺外交政策上嘅，我哋慢慢都見到其實咧佢喺英國嘅內政咧都跟得上而家嘅最新嘅形勢。即係話，譬如佢喺呢一邊，佢哋亦都會擔心，即係處理港人嘅議題，唔能夠一刀切，淨係諗佢嚟自華文地區，咁就當佢哋係 Chinese，或者咧就純粹就好簡單地交俾喺呢一度現成嘅華僑團體去接待。佢哋慢慢開始意識到，當中其實有好多 nuances， 有好多嘅分別，係需要有一個政治敏感度係去處理嘅。咁我覺得呢一個咧係經歷咗2到3年之後咧，佢哋慢慢意識到啦。所以我話最明顯一樣嘢，雖然呢樣嘢好似好禮儀性質，咁但係即係我哋都知道農曆新年係作為華人乃至我哋亞裔最重要嘅節日，等同於西方人嘅聖誕節。即係佢哋嘅呢一種嘅表態咧，或者佢邀請邊個唔邀請邊個咧，其實呢樣嘢都係開始佢哋慢慢意識到係原來統戰佢哋會利用呢一啲嘅禮節性嘅事情係做一啲大外宣，調翻轉做一啲大內宣嘅事情嘅。咁佢要杜絕呢個行為嘅時候，佢就以身作則去做呢一個範式轉移。呢個範式轉移，我覺得唔係淨係 one off 嘅意識上嘅改變，而係代表住佢哋嘅心態改變。咁呢個心態改變咧，慢慢咧，我相信再往後嘅時候，譬如我哋講無論係即係孔子學院啊，我哋講國家安全嗰個人權保障啊，呢樣嘢嘅時候咧，我覺得佢哋慢慢會有更加多嘅規管。好似我哋今次亦都見到啦，唔止係過去華為5G 嘅建設因為香港嘅事件連帶嘅一啲嘅效應 stop 咗。我哋一見到今次 TikTok 亦都係開始有唔少嘅國家發起，即係開始要去禁用包括喺公用嘅公務嘅體系入邊去禁用 TikTok。咁我諗呢樣嘢都係我哋慢慢都開始意識到就係我哋唔係一個以意識形態行先，但係我哋必須要明白喺個國際嘅關係上嚟講，佢哋做嘅好多方面，我哋仲漸唔信任，因為佢哋會利用各種嘅方式係去加強佢哋自己喺國內嘅威權控制，甚至將呢一個威權嘅統治嘅手段咧對外擴張。所以呢樣嘢會令到呢一個嘅技術或者呢一個嘅產品嚟自你係嚟自民主國家，定係你嚟自一個人權紀錄好差嘅國家呢，係需要納入考量嘅。咁所以我覺得呢一樣嘢呢，係我哋港人嘅社區入咗嚟之後，進入呢一個社區慢慢發揮影響力嘅時候呢，令到我哋呢一啲嘅下程可以上達，可以促進呢一個嘅改變。
而家咧，Sunak 咧就一個新嘅移民政策啦，就係嗰個Asylum Seeker聽講都幾嚴厲。你覺得會對香港嘅尋求政治庇護嘅嗰啲年輕人有咩影響呢？
係即係其實大家都見到，即係除咗佢係專案嘅形式，譬如 BNO Visa，佢呢啲相對嚟講係當然比較寬鬆啦。但係對於其他啲難民嘅一啲嘅手段呢，保守黨政府呢係越趨強硬嘅。嗱，佢哋嘅理由係話有好多人用非法嘅手段即係搭一啲非法嘅快艇，佢哋要打擊嘅係一啲人口販賣嘅集團或者一啲嘅走私嘅集團，因為當中佢哋經過英倫海峽嘅時候咧，就遭遇到好大嘅危險，即係佢哋會用呢個理由。當然，我哋睇翻無論係歐盟嘅人權系統啦、聯合國嘅人權系統啦，其實都係反對呢一個嘅做法嘅，包括佢哋去同盧旺達簽署協議，將佢哋咧係引導或者係咁講，將佢哋轉移去到盧旺達呢一個第三方嘅國家。咁呢樣嘢亦都令人引起爭議，因為盧旺達可能本身有啲人會擔憂佢嘅環境啊、人權紀錄啊，即係等等呢啲咁嘅情況。咁所以其實呢一個咧喺英國國內咧係一個好有爭議嘅議題。咁我哋覺得其實無論係港人定係難民，應當係要一視同仁。我哋唔係鼓勵其他人用非法嘅手段，亦都圖利一啲犯罪分子去做呢樣嘢。但係我哋希望嘅呢，就係佢哋嘅過程當中呢，係符合人道嘅立場。佢哋需要譬如可能同法國或者同歐盟其他嘅國家呢去合作，點樣共同去處理呢樣嘢。咁所以我認為，即係英國政府目前去採取呢一種比較單邊主義嘅方式，採取呢種果斷行動呢，我認為係有失人道嘅喺呢一方面。咁但係我當然我明白，即係對於佢哋嚟講，點樣安置、點樣處理呢啲嘅難民所帶嚟嘅，譬如潛藏嘅可能唔同嘅問題、唔同嘅社會問題，即係對於佢哋嚟講，亦都係一個困難。我能夠明白政府嘅難處，咁所以我諗冇一個比較好嘅方案啦。但係我認為能夠讓即係難民佢無論係咩方式嚟到英國嘅時候，你都應該要經過內政部嘅審議，然後佢有佢嘅權利係去向法庭申訴，讓法庭或者司法去做一個裁決，係最好嘅方式。
唔該晒你。咁而家集會仲繼續進行緊啊！我要睇一睇有咩人可以接受一下訪問先。我係大紀元嘅，係啦，就想同你講幾句啦，係最近今日嘅集會啦，咁就而家仲有即係香港仲有大量政治犯係被拘捕啦。咁你覺得今日嘅集會，我哋喺度做嘅嘢夠唔夠呢？
其實我會話咧，即係為政治犯所做嘅事情咧，係永遠都唔會夠嘅，因為你會見到就係而家喺香港嘅政治犯受到關注嘅程度，喺外國其實咧係未去到一個非常之高嘅狀態啦。又或者係即係外國政府係咪真係直接去回應緊，例如而家香港所發生嘅時局咧，其實係未必嘅。咁所以我覺得我哋在外嘅香港人，尤其是有咁多空間嘅時候，我哋仲有更多可以做啦，包括集會、包括遊行，甚至係去說服你身邊嘅朋友、鄰居。即係要去關注呢一件事情，其實我哋所有嘅努力都要去做。咁啊，同埋第二樣嘢就係，即係好坦白講，你見到今日遊行同埋參與集會嘅人數都唔係非常之多啦。咁啊，我當然明白就係即係今日都有好多唔同香港人嘅活動出現啦，咁樣。咁但係即係其實我哋都會期待喺未來會有更多嘅香港人係去參與呢一啲嘅集會同埋遊行。 因為即係畢竟就係其實喺香港入面嘅人其實係好難可以去為自己發聲，尤其是係 under 呢一個國安法之下嘅影響。咁所以即係我哋喺外面嘅人，我哋擁有空間，我哋自己發聲更多咯。
國內唔係，即係喺香港嘅手足有冇話同佢哋再聯絡啦？佢哋而家嘅情況係點樣？
好坦白講呢，就係而家呢，我哋都避免同香港人又係有接觸嘅，包括係手足啦，又或者係政治人物都好，因為即係你都會見到就係就算喺外面做咗啲乜嘢，咁呢一個國安法所影響嘅係全球嘅，咁所以基本上即係例如佢同外國嘅人有接觸有聯繫嘅話，其實令到香港入面嘅人都係會遭受好大嘅風險咁樣，咁所以即係我覺得喺呢個情況之下，我哋都係盡量避免。但係我哋永遠都係心繫住香港嘅人啦，同埋我哋所做緊嘅事情都係為咗香港嘅人而去努力。
同埋咧，英國政府咧推出咗 BNO 之後咧，感覺就係對香港係作出咗個道德承擔啦。咁但係而家對呢個香港入邊嘅政治犯，你覺得佢哋而家嘅取態係點樣？
我覺得咧，其實咧係仲有好多嘢係可以做嘅，因為好坦白講就係、即係當然而家佢哋都有開始去關注嗰啲事件啦，包括黎智英啊或者等等嘅人啦。咁啊，但係其實即係要關注嘅事件仲係非常之多啦。咁同埋其實事實上就係即係嗰個道德責任都係非常之大嘅。即係英國政府其實仲即係例如包括係即係喺嗰個中英聯合聲明入面，其實講明咗就係每半年其實佢哋有個義務去到監察住香港嘅民主嘅情況啦，又或者係即係當嗰個聯合聲明入面所 promise 嘅內容都係被打破嘅時候，其實佢哋有責任要求去履行呢一樣嘢，所以呢一個呢，其實本身就已經係英國政府嘅責任嚟㗎啦。咁所以對於我而言就係話，英國政府可以做嘅事情或者佢要承擔起嘅責任呢，其實係更加大嘅，應該要。咁啊，同埋即係再講多一樣嘢就係、其實而家呢一刻。即係英國政府見到即係47人案嘅時候嘅發展，事態發展，其實佢應該要擔起一個領導嘅角色，領導國際社會去支持一啲堅定喺香港站喺民主自由一方嘅人，因為其實而家某程度上係一個冷戰嘅一個格局嚟嘅。喺呢一個冷戰嘅格局之下呢，其實喺一啲極權嘅地方願意仲企喺民主自由嘅一方嘅人呢，即係唔同嘅政府民主嘅陣營係應該要全力支持呢一啲嘅人，全力將呢啲人救出嚟。唔該晒你，嘉樂。Thank you。
今日咧唐寧街對出咧就真係人山人海，因為咧Sunak個 Prime Minister Sunak 咧就推出咗呢個新嘅難民政策啦，咁就令到好多其他嘅團體今日就集合喺唐寧街對出嘅呢個廣場外面嘅嚇，大家睇睇而家現場嘅情況。好，咁我睇睇有冇其他人可以再採訪一下，再問一下。
係啊，佢啱啱幫我哋。佢係呢個嘅。呢個俾你。
I mean, I come from Nottingham. Yeah. And I work with Nottingham Stands with Hong Kong.
Hi.
Okay, Jim. Thanks.
Hi. I come from Epoch Times UK, and I would like to ask you a few questions. It's regarding after the UK government rolled out the BNO visa policy. I think that they thought they have take the responsibility to protect the Hong Kong people. But at this stage, do you think the UK government, what kind of actions they still can to do for Hong Kong?
Well, I believe that anyone who's fleeing, I believe that anyone fleeing persecution should have the right to claim asylum. That is written in international law, but this government in Britain is now trying to reverse on that. They made some commitments in 2020 that people fleeing persecution in Hong Kong would be able to get British citizenship. But that scheme never went far enough. It was initially restricted to people who are were older, not the sort who were taken to the streets in Hong Kong itself. It also made dependent on people coming here that they could financially provide for their upkeep and didn't need help. And again, I think that was wrong. So I'm against what this government has failed. Well, this government has failed to protect Hong Kongers. But I think it's not only Hong Kongers it's failed to protect, it's other asylum seekers. They're currently throwing asylum seekers back into the sea, in effect. So that's why we're fighting not only to defend the Hong Kong right of asylum in Britain, but also all asylum seekers.
Yeah. And so one of the speakers, he said, how to deal with China CCP is still on discussion within the Parliament. What do you think the UK government's attitude to CCP? What's your will?
Well, I think corruption is very widely existent internationally. And corruption to me is part and parcel, I've got to say, of capitalism. Of people who think the most important thing is that people make profits and not that they look after human rights and labour rights. Unfortunately, this government and governments preceding it, British governments, have made right from the days of the Opium War and beyond. They've looked on China and the people of all the surrounding districts as just a means of making profit and money and getting rich. And that still happens now. The major British banks, the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank Corporation, the Standard Chartered Bank, pressurised the government and was successful in stopping the government applying sanctions, any sanctions on their activities in China. We must demand action is taken. But I believe the people who will take it will be the ordinary people. They won't be the directors of companies. They will be people who work in those companies and demand it. Their supporters taken to the streets, demanding that they respect human rights, which they're not doing. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank
Sorry
you.
if it was a bit.
Yes, okay. 好啦，咁今日咧就大概嚟咗百零人啦，咁就係啦，喺我哋嘅呢次直播結束之前啦，咁我都想同大家咧回顧一下咧而家香港政治犯嘅一啲資料啦。咁根據我哋香港大紀元咧嘅2022年5月嘅報告啦，咁就由2019年嘅6月9號去到2022年嘅5月10號啦。香港政治犯嘅人數咧係由26人咧暴增到10,104人啦，總刑期係超過772年嘅，其中582人咧就喺度服刑，另外432人咧就服刑完畢嘅。喺段期間咧，至少錄得咧係10,501次嘅拘捕行動，有2,974人咧74人被起訴嘅。當中有1,815人完成審訊，1,198人係被定罪，定罪率係高達67%。另外咧，仲有1,159人嘅案件仍喺度審理當中。而家案件咧就排到2023年，即係今年開始審訊㗎啦。但係呢個已經係佢哋被拘捕囚禁之後嘅4年啦。好。 咁就大家仲可以留喺度先，我哋而家暫時仲有少少，睇下揾唔揾到其他人可以採訪一下。好。
其實捱過咗3月，因為真係3月又Hong Kong Summit，又Hong Kong March，跟住又要交分明，所以呢個月係再加埋我呢個示威，咁我因為我哋呢個示威就係即係Hong Kong Police。
好，多謝晒大家今日上線啦，我哋今日就圓滿結束啦。咁希望大家繼續支持英國嘅大紀元，繼續支持自由正義發聲嘅媒體。